This is an individual tragedy as well. Autism destroys families. More importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which are our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this.
The only one suffering is RFK every time he speaks. What's up, guys? This is Andrew King Bids. And that video you just watched was RFK saying that people with disabilities and autism destroy families, take up resources, and that they don't pay their taxes. That sounds more like the billionaires to me. But I digress. This is the type of talk that you hear during an authoritarian, fascist regime. You would never hear people who actually care about people talk like this. They would find ways to provide resources to help to provide for these people, not call them a drain on society. Tell them that they can't throw a baseball. Now, if this type of propaganda sounds familiar, that's because it is. Before we begin, I want to let you know that viewer discretion is advised. So if you don't want to go any further, just cut away now. So it all starts in the 1930s and the 1940s. Hitler and his regime started what was called Program Action T4 with a K. Action T4 was an inner circle of people who believed that people with disabilities were a threat to the so-called racial purity of Germany. That included people with physical, mental, and learning disabilities, and even emotional. The Nazis would run movies, posters, and campaigns trying to convince the public that these people were a burden on society, costing them money and resources. Sound familiar? Eventually, they started to convince hospitals and doctors to give up their patients' records, and that they would have to report newborns and young children with disabilities. Anybody with deformities, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, autism, and epilepsy, and also learning disabilities. Soon enough, families were convinced that their children would receive special treatment, which means better care. But in reality, that was all a lie. Soon enough, men, women, and children started to be rounded up, anybody considered with a disability, and they were taken to institutions. Now this is where it gets real ugly. Institutionalized adults and even those living at home were rounded up. Soon they were sent to gas chambers designed as showers. This was a method that was perfected during the Action T4 killings, and that would later be used in concentration camps. You were either thrown into the gas chamber as someone with disabilities, or you were neglected or starved to death. And this didn't just happen to the adults. They did this to children. They convinced the families that their children would receive special treatment, and these children would either be starved to death, neglected, or killed with lethal injection. These were deliberate killings. The Nazis would call them mercy killings. And it was estimated that over 200,000 people with disabilities were rounded up and mercy killed in the war. And it all started with the campaigning that these people were drains on society and they were suffering. When we start hearing our government talk like how RFK did, that's how we know that this is definitely an attack on our citizens. People with autism are everywhere. They're your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife, your cousin, and even your own children. Are you going to allow the government to come in and start rounding up your kids? Even you, MAGA, have got to see how bad this is. Even you, MAGA, have to have people in your family who have disabilities. Now you could say that, oh, this would never happen. The definition of insanity is doing something over and over again and getting the same result. We warned you before the elections. We warned you during the election. We warned you again after the election. And we're warning you again now. And everything we said that he would do, he did. If you don't think he wouldn't do this, he just deported a 2-year-old little girl who is a U.S. citizen to a country that is in the middle of a civil war. So if you don't think he wouldn't do this shit, think again. Don't wait for the killings to start happening. Take action now, before it's too late, and you find your brother, your sister, your children, or yourself in the next form of gas chamber. I'm Andrew King Vids. Make sure to like and follow.